this is Mike from Pure Process Technology, and lately I've been getting a lot of orders for column replacements and column refills. So today I wanted to take a few minutes and show a video on just exactly how to go ahead and replace those in the easiest possible way. A couple of things that you're going to need. You'll need some kind of a jack, about a 1/4 inch plate, tape measure, a small little level, vice grips, 9/16 wrench, adjustable wrench. This, you might not need a little rubber mallet, but it makes it easier. Something to mark with on the metal, either a pencil or a marker. And of course, some safety glasses and some rubber gloves. Okay, so of course the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your safety glasses and your rubber gloves on. Your columns are going to have solvent in there. Right now this is a brand new system that I just finished building, so it is empty right now, so I'm not going to bother with the gloves. But if you have solvent in yours, you definitely want to make sure you have your gloves on. Okay, so now we're getting ready to go ahead and remove our two columns. First things that we want to do is we want to make sure all of our valves are closed. So we'll close both valves at the bottom of the columns, the two valves at the top of the columns. Inside your cabinet, make sure that the two valves on your keg are both closed. And then for good measure, also make sure that the valve over on the argon manifold is also closed. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and remove any of the screws that are tying down your spill tray. Move that spill tray back so that it's directly underneath both of the columns. Now that you have all four of your valves closed, you want to start disconnecting some of the tubing. Now I've already loosened these, but this would be a 9/16 wrench, sometimes a little tap. Now that we have the two pieces of stainless tubing out of the way, we'll go ahead and we'll disconnect the hose that's taking the solvent from the keg up into the back column. Now once I have that disconnected, I'm going to take one of these plugs, stick it in there so we don't have solvent draining all over the top of the cabinet. Now, you grab your vice grips. The easiest way is to go ahead and clamp down on there. Take the jack and get it right on up there. Now, the reason for the 1/4 inch plate is because there's a difference in height between the back column and the front column. The back column is a 1/4 inch higher, so you get that plate underneath there to keep them where they belong. Now you can loosen up the nut on the bottom clamp, remove the bolt. And take out the two pieces of the clamp. Now this is where it gets a lot easier if you have somebody else that can help you, but it can be done with one person, as I'm about to show you. Remove the nut and the bolt on this clamp. Holding the tops of the two columns. Take out your two pieces of the clamp. Now these are going to be a little bit on the heavy side. They're approximately 17 pounds each. So One way is to just lift them up and over. Okay, so that's the first part there. We already have our old columns out, and now we're just going to go ahead and put the new columns back in. Okay, so now that we've got the old columns off and getting ready to put the new columns back on, first thing we want to do is we want to put a couple of caps onto the bottom of each column. Protect the threads. Okay. Now, of course, the clamp always goes to the top of the column, so we want to put those caps on the bottom. And then I have already gone ahead and measured, and I've set my jack at 3 1/4 inches. All right, then I put the 1/4 inch plate on top so that in the center, in the back here, it should be just about 3 1/2 inches. Now I'm ready to put the columns back on. Okay. Now when I build it, I try to make sure that these clamps here are pointed directly towards the back, just for looks. I'll then put the clamps on. And this is where it's so much easier if you have somebody to help. But it can be done without. Put your bolt and your nut in. And just get it finger tight. Then do the same with the bottom clamp. So now that I have the clamps on and the bolts and the nuts are finger tight, I want to make sure that I get them in nice alignment forward to back so that the back is pretty much hidden from the front, and then make sure that they're level. Once I have everything level and everything looks good and straight, use my vice grips again, tighten on that clamp, and all right, and there you go. Now the columns are all set where they belong. Move this stuff out of the way. So that was the reason why we wanted to be able to move this spill tray, is that when you put the jack on here, you want it to be sitting on the spill tray and not on the cabinet itself, right, to be able to get the correct height. So now we can move that back to where it belongs, and it's just now a matter of reconnecting all of the tubing. So we have the one from the front column to the final filter, put that on. And then the column interconnect is up to the top of the back one and down to the bottom of the front. Just remove the caps. Okay, and then I just take a step back and I make sure that things look straight and level Okay, tighten them down. Now for this, you want to use both your adjustable wrench and your 9/16, because whenever you're tightening or loosening on these valves, you want to make sure that you hold the valve in place while you tighten. Then we can reconnect our hose, pull out the plug, okay. Now everything is all set and back together the way it's supposed to be. Now one of the things I forgot to mention earlier was that before you take this off and before you loosen the clamps, what you want to do is make some kind of a mark, either center line down here on the spill tray, or maybe on one on each side up here on the blue frame. Just make a mark so you know where the columns go. All of these are hand built and custom bent in the shop, and so there's slight differences, but they should have a mark on there. It's just you may not be able to see that mark especially if your system is sitting up against the wall somewhere where you can't get behind it. So just mark something so that you know where it goes. Otherwise, some of this other piping here might hit things. It might actually come at a very bad angle. So just mark somehow so you know where it goes. Okay, now our column is all back in. All of our tubing and our hoses are all connected. The next thing we have to do is degas the solvent and purge the columns. But in order to see that, you're going to have